Mara stared at the breakfast table, chairs for four, but only her spoon slid across porcelain this morning. The clink echoed off the kitchen tile. A soft whir of the refrigerator hummed in the background. The house, once full of shouting and footsteps, was now just bones and breath. The light streamed in through the lace curtains, hitting the old oak table where four mismatched chairs surrounded a fifth that had been pushed against the wall, her husband's chair. It hadn't been touched in 18 years. She scooped another spoonful of oatmeal, plain, lumpy, too sweet, no one to complain about it. No one to steal her toast or ask where their socks were or tell her to turn down the oldies station on the radio. A robin chirped outside the window, bold and bright, and Mara narrowed her eyes at it. Every spring it returned, built its little nest in the corner eave like clockwork. It didn't hesitate. It didn't second-guess its home. She reached for the salt, then stopped. No one wanted salty oatmeal, Mara. She smiled at her own scolding voice. The silence was getting too good at playing back old lines. Her eyes drifted toward the calendar on the fridge. 5 birthdays were circled in red, color-coded by child, and each one had a question mark scribbled beside it. Would they come this year? Did they even remember? Mom, where's my blue shirt? Jorge's voice from years ago echoed across the tile. Mara, I'm gonna be late, can you iron my uniform? Eli's deep voice had always boomed through the hall like a storm rolling in. Mama Aya, look at my drawing. Mindy, covered in markers and glitter. Turn down the radio, I'm trying to practice. Lena, back when she thought every talent show was life or death, all of it, all of them, played like a movie reel against the silence. She stood, brought her bowl to the sink, and let the water run over her hands longer than necessary. Her knuckles ached more than they used to. Her skin felt thinner, like even the water could hurt it. In the hallway, the family photo still hung slightly crooked. She didn't bother fixing it anymore. Her fingers grazed the frame as she walked by, a habit, not a conscious choice. In the photo, she was younger, tired but smiling. Eli stood tallest, chest puffed out, Lena clutched a violin in one hand and her brother Jorge's ear with the other. Mindy, the youngest, sat in Mara's lap, mid-giggle. God, they had all fit on that porch once. Fit inside her arms. Fit inside the world she built for them. The clock ticked behind her. She sat in the armchair by the window, same place she sat every morning since her husband died. Her phone rested on the side table, screen dark. She didn't want to check it. Not really. She always said she didn't care if they called. That they were busy. That they had their own lives. She picked it up anyway. No missed calls. No voicemails. Just as she was about to put it down, a ding. A text. Her heart jumped before her brain even read it. Lena, in town tomorrow. Not sure if I'll be able to stop by. The message stared at her, plain and unbothered. No emojis. No exclamation marks. Just words, distant, careful words. She read it again. And again. Not sure if I'll be able to stop by. Mara set the phone down slowly. Her hands were steady. But something inside her shifted, a small ache under the ribs. She looked back at the 4 empty chairs. Tomorrow, one of them might pass through. Or she might not. But she'd be here. She always was. Lena's message sits unanswered. Mara stares out the window, whispering to no one, you're in town, but not sure if you'll see your mother? The garden she once planted with joy was overrun by weeds, yet she still knelt, pulling them out one by one. The sun had barely risen when Mara pulled on her old gardening gloves, the ones with the thumb split at the seam. She shuffled into the backyard where the soil smelled of damp earth and memories. The raised beds were crooked now. One had rotted through at the corner. The marigolds she used to plant in perfect rows had given way to wild thistle and creeping vines. Still, she knelt beside them like they were precious things. She remembered the year Jorge begged for carrots, convinced he could see better at night if he ate enough of them. They'd planted 2 full rows together. The next year, he didn't ask to help. He had stopped asking a lot of things that year. Mara pulled a weed with more force than necessary. Dirt sprayed across her wrist, spattering her arm with little brown freckles. There was no breeze that morning. Just the dry sound of leaves rustling above, and somewhere in the distance, the faint hum of traffic. But here, in this little square of soil, it was just her. She glanced toward the old shed, its door slightly ajar. Her husband built it before he passed, told her the garden would give her peace. It did, once. But now, every overgrown corner reminded her of time she'd lost, or worse, wasted. She sat back on her heels, wiped sweat from her brow with the back of her glove. Her knees ached from kneeling. Her neck stiff from sleeping alone. She hadn't replied to Lena's text yet. She didn't know what to say. "That's okay, sweetheart," or "I hope you find time," or maybe just, "nothing." Maybe silence was safer. Her eyes drifted across the garden to the old oak tree, where Jorge once strung up a hammock. He was 12, proud, stubborn, already drifting into moods he didn't know how to explain. He'd lie there for hours, headphones in, refusing to come in for dinner until Mara would storm outside, wave her wooden spoon, and demand he acknowledge her. He would grin, that lopsided grin that made her forgive him too easily, and come inside smelling of leaves and summer. That grin was gone by the time he turned 17. She didn't know the last time he smiled at her. Mara pressed her palms to the ground, tried to rise, wobbled slightly, and grabbed the side of the raised bed for balance. She was tired, but not just from the yard work. It was a deeper exhaustion, one that came from wanting something for too long, and never getting it. She dusted her gloves off and walked to the porch steps, sinking onto the top stair. She pulled off the gloves, one finger at a time, like peeling away armor. The phone buzzed again. She flinched. She didn't recognize the number. Her heart thudded louder than she wanted to admit. She opened the message. No text, just a photo. A baby. Dark curls. Soft eyes. Wrapped in a blanket she recognized, not exactly, but close. A pattern too similar to the one Mindy's grandmother used to knit for all the kids. The message had no words. No sender ID. Just the photo. Mara stared at it. 1,000 possibilities flooded her brain. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She dialed Mindy. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Her chest tightened. What was this? Where was Mindy? Why now? Why like this? She stood up too fast, the photo still glowing on the screen. She wanted answers, and all she had was silence. The wind finally picked up. The hammock rope squeaked against the tree. She turned toward it slowly. And saw, tucked beneath the oak's roots, a small cardboard package. Damp at the corners. No label. She walked toward it. Her hands trembled as she reached down to lift it. No name. No note. Just the word Mama scrawled across the top in thin, fading ink. Mara carries the package into the house, heart pounding. Her fingers trace the word Mama again. She whispers, "What have you done, Mindy?" Before slowly opening the flap. Every Sunday, Mara checked the mailbox. Every Sunday, still nothing. The package was lighter than she expected. Inside, tissue paper, slightly damp. Beneath it, wrapped in a stained burp cloth, was a baby photo. Not just any photo. A newborn, eyes half open, tiny fists clenched. And lying beside the infant, barely visible in the corner of the frame. Mindy. Pale. Thin. Her head resting on a hospital pillow. Mara's breath caught in her throat. She sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the photo as if it might rearrange itself, as if there had been some mistake. There was no note, no signature. Just the image. She turned it over, a date, smudged. Nearly a year ago. She pressed the photo to her chest like it might explain something if she held it tightly enough. But all it gave her was a hollow ache. She wanted to scream. Or call. Or do something. Instead, she folded the photo and slid it into the pocket of her robe. Then she walked to the front door. The air outside smelled like coming rain. She walked slowly, one foot heavy after the other, until she reached the mailbox at the end of the driveway. Empty. Of course. Every Sunday she checked, even when she didn't want to. Even when she told herself she'd stopped expecting anything. Not even a postcard. Not even a birthday card for her, last year. And now a baby had been born, and she hadn't even known. Mara wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater, scanning the street. Empty sidewalks. Lawns trimmed to perfection. Every house with a painted front door. She wondered if anyone inside them knew how lonely she was. The wind tugged at her robe as she walked around the block toward Jorge's place. He had stayed in town, at least, not far, just far enough to never stop by. The front porch was cluttered with a pair of sneakers and an empty pizza box. She rang the bell. No answer. She knocked. Still nothing. But as she turned to leave, something caught her eye near the base of the steps, a thick envelope. Stamped. Addressed to someone named Nancy Ortega, but the handwriting on the back, her name. Mara. No return address. She picked it up slowly, cautiously, as if it might vanish. She opened it. Inside, a small greeting card, one of those generic thinking of you types with a watercolor flower on the front. And on the inside, one word. Sorry. That was it, nothing more. No signature. No explanation. Her knees buckled and she sat on Jorge's bottom step. Mara stared at the word until the letters blurred together. Sorry. For what? For not calling? For the baby? For Mindy? Had Jorge sent the photo? Did he know about Mindy's child? A rush of questions hit her all at once. The silence from all of them, it wasn't distance anymore. It was a wall. And suddenly, she wasn't sure who had built it. She got up slowly, slipping the card into her pocket next to the photo. As she walked back home, a single name echoed louder than the others. Mindy, her sweet sunbeam of a child. The one who clung to her skirt long after the others had let go. The one she always thought loved her most, or maybe needed her most. When had that changed? And why hadn't she seen it? The porch creaked under her feet as she stepped inside. She locked the door behind her and leaned against it, listening to her own breath. The silence didn't feel peaceful today. It felt like a punishment. She walked to the kitchen, pulled out her address book, the old one, with names crossed out and corners folded. She found Mindy's last known address. Her fingers trembled as she scrawled a letter on the back of a grocery list. I got your photo. Call me. Please. She sealed it. Stared at it. Set it aside. Then opened her phone again. She dialed. Voicemail. She tried again. Still voicemail. Third time. Nothing. She left a message. Mindy, it's Mom. I got something today. A picture. And something from Jorge's. If it's yours, if it's anything, call me. Please, sweetie. She hung up. Her eyes burned. She sat down in the chair across from her husband's empty one. And stared. The phone buzzes again. Another photo. This time, Mindy, sitting alone in a hospital bed. A caption typed under it, "Don't come." She once held their hands as they promised they'd never leave. Now, she ate alone. The soup simmered on the stove. Chicken and rice, Jorge's favorite. Mara stirred it slowly, even though she knew it would be just her again. She still set 4 places at the table. Just in case. She had called Eli 3 times this week. No response. Jorge hadn't said more than busy in a text. Lena? Her last message still sat on the screen, not sure if I'll be able to stop by. She had spent the day scrubbing baseboards and polishing the old photos on the wall, pretending it was for herself. But it wasn't. It was for them, her 4 children, the ones she raised from diapers to diplomas, alone. Tonight was supposed to be the turning point. The dinner that fixed everything. She laid the silverware with military precision. A folded napkin at each seat. Even candles in the center. The soft hum of Nina Simone played on the stereo. This was her way of apologizing, though she didn't know exactly what for. Maybe for being too much. Or not enough. For raising them with rules and pride and expectations that might have felt like cages. She just wanted them home. As she lit the last candle, her phone buzzed. Lena, can't make it tonight. Sorry. Next time. No explanation. Just like that. Mara's hand tightened around the lighter. Her thumb ached from the flicking. She put the lighter down and walked to the hallway mirror. Fixed her hair. Straightened her collar. Practiced a smile. She was ready. Still hopeful. A knock at the door. Her heart soared. But when she opened it, it wasn't any of her children. It was Dolores, her neighbor, holding a small grocery bag. Mara, I thought I'd bring you some extra bread, she said, smiling kindly. Didn't want it to go stale. Mara thanked her, voice flat. She closed the door gently after her. Back at the table, she sat. Waited. The clock ticked. No one came. At 7:30, she turned off the stove. Poured the soup into containers. Labeled them, Eli, Lena, Jorge, Mindy. Even though none of them would likely take them. She stood at the sink, hands submerged in hot water, when her phone buzzed again. Jorge, stop trying to fix what you broke. It's too late. The message hit like a slap. Her breath caught in her throat. She called him. Straight to voicemail. She slammed the phone down. The sharp sound echoed across the tile. She stared at the screen. Something inside her cracked. They were gone. Not just grown, gone. And then, as if the universe had waited for that moment, the doorbell rang again. Not a knock. A ring. Mara hesitated. She opened the door. No one there. But on the step, another envelope. No return address. Just her name written in shaky ink. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Just 5 words. You don't know, do you? Her breath caught. There was no signature. Nothing else. She stepped outside, looking down the street. Empty. She reread the note. Was this from Mindy? Or someone else? She rushed back inside, grabbing her phone. She scrolled through old voicemails, Mindy's last one. The photo. The caption. Don't come. She played the voicemail again. There was something behind Mindy's voice, not just weariness. Something else. Defeat. Suddenly, Mara remembered a name, a woman Mindy had once lived with briefly. A roommate, maybe more. She searched her name online, dug through old emails. Then she found it, a blog. Mindy had written under a pseudonym. Posts going back months. One entry stopped her cold. I'm not telling my mother, she'll just make it about her. And I can't give her that. Not right now. I need to protect what little I have left. Mara sat down slowly. Her legs felt like paper. She scrolled further. And then she saw it, my little girl deserves better than secrets. But how do you tell your mother you're dying? Mara's vision blurred. She read the line again. And again. 1. Mindy was dying. She had a baby. And Mara had known none of it. Mara's phone buzzes again, an unknown number. She answers. A voice, young and unsure, are you Mindy's mom? Mindy's voicemail, when it came, was nothing like she remembered her voice to be. Mara had replayed the blog post a dozen times. Every line etched deeper than the last. She barely slept that night, drifting in and out of consciousness, her mind a carousel of words. How do you tell your mother you're dying? She sat by the phone like it was a lifeline. The house around her felt hostile now, like it was holding secrets in every corner. The walls knew things she didn't. When the phone rang the next morning, she nearly dropped it. "Hello?" Her voice cracked with anticipation. Silence, then a soft breath. "Are you Mara Thompson?" "Yes." "Who is this?" "She told me to call you. Eventually." The voice was young. Female. Calm, but strained, like someone reading from inside a sealed box. "Who is this?" Mara asked again, more firmly. "I'm her friend. From the hospital. Mindy wanted to, she asked me to keep you updated, but only when she couldn't anymore." Mara's blood ran cold. "What hospital? What's wrong with her?" A long pause. "She's tired, Mrs. Thompson. Weak. But stable today. I can't give you more unless she says it's okay." "I'm sorry." Mara's chest tightened. "She doesn't want me there, does she?" "No," the woman said gently. "She thinks it would hurt too much. For both of you." The line clicked. Silence. Mara stared at the phone. She felt like someone had split her open and forgotten to sew her back together. She walked to the hallway mirror again. Her reflection looked old. Hollowed out. Her lips trembled. She opened the drawer under the mirror and pulled out a manila folder, birth certificates, school awards, baby teeth in Ziploc bags. The evidence of a life she'd once controlled. Of children she once understood. And now, Mindy was sick, possibly dying. A mother herself. And Mara hadn't known. She gripped the table edge. Tried to breathe. The wind picked up outside, rattling the old windows. Storm clouds had begun to roll in, quiet, heavy, waiting. She couldn't just sit here. She wouldn't. Mara grabbed her coat and keys and headed to the car. The sky was gray, bruised with thunder. The road stretched long and empty, just her and the storm building in the distance. The town blurred past. She drove with one hand gripping the steering wheel like it might betray her. Halfway to the address she'd found online for Mindy's apartment, the phone buzzed again. A text. "Unknown, don't come." Mara ignored it. She pressed harder on the gas. But then, flashing lights. A car ahead had swerved off the road. An officer waved traffic around. Mara slowed, distracted. A heavy crack of thunder split the sky. Another message came in. "Mindy, Mom, please. Don't make this about you again. Let me do this my way." The words punched her in the chest. Don't make this about you again. What had she done? What had she ever done that was just for herself? She thought of every birthday she planned, every lunch she packed, every sleepless night nursing coughs, calming fevers, braiding hair at 6 a.m., staying late after work to buy them new shoes. Was that about her? No. It was about love. It had always been about love. Hadn't it? She pulled the car over, turned the ignition off, and sat in the quiet. Rain tapped gently on the windshield. Her hands trembled. She whispered, "She doesn't want to see me." She whispered it again. Then screamed it into the car's silence. It didn't echo. Nothing answered. Only the rain. Back home, she didn't take off her coat. She stood in the foyer, the quiet pressing down again. Then she did something she hadn't done in years. She went to the closet and pulled out her husband's old flannel. Wrapped herself in it. And wept. Her phone buzzed again. A voicemail, this time, from Mindy. Her voice barely a whisper, "I don't know if I'm ready. But if you do come, don't come alone." In her old trunk, she found a letter she never sent, a confession she'd hidden, even from herself. The attic smelled like cedar and thyme. Mara hadn't been up here in years. Dust hung in the air like fog as she pulled the chain on the single bulb overhead. Boxes lined the eaves, sagging with old school projects, photo albums, baby blankets she could never bring herself to throw out. In the corner was the old chest. Her husband's. It still had his initials carved in the side, from their honeymoon in Vermont, back when carving something into wood made it feel permanent. She knelt in front of it, heart beating slowly, methodically, like she was opening a wound she'd kept stitched for decades. The hinges creaked as the lid opened. Inside, the usual, their wedding album, love letters tied with ribbon, a small ceramic bowl Mindy had made in kindergarten. But beneath it all, tucked in the bottom, a yellowed envelope addressed in her own handwriting, to Mama, never sent. She sat back, stunned. She remembered writing it now, barely 21, pregnant with Eli, terrified and alone in her tiny one-bedroom apartment after her mother had hung up on her. She unfolded the letter carefully. Her younger self's handwriting was round, too neat, like she was trying to look like an adult on paper. Mama, I know you're disappointed in me. I wish you weren't. I wish you had hugged me instead of walking away. I'm scared. I don't know how to be a mother. I don't know how to give love the right way because you never showed me how. But I want to. I'm going to try. Mara covered her mouth, shaking. So much of her life had been about proving she could do it better. That she could raise kids who never doubted they were loved, that she could be the mother hers had never been. But maybe she had gone too far the other direction. Demanding love. Expecting gratitude like a paycheck. She folded the letter and pressed it against her chest. Maybe Mindy was right. Maybe she had made it about herself. She closed the chest slowly and sat on the attic floor for a long time, staring at nothing. By afternoon, she stood in the hallway mirror again, watching herself as if she were someone else. Her eyes looked sunken. Her mouth, hard. There were lines she didn't remember getting. She didn't want Mindy to see her like this, broken and desperate. But more than that, she didn't want Mindy to not see her at all. She walked into the kitchen and picked up the envelope with Mindy's hospital address. She tucked it into her purse, along with the baby photo, and the card that just said sorry. Then she grabbed her coat again. She would go. Even if it meant being turned away. Even if Mindy shouted or cried or refused to speak. Mara wasn't ready to lose another child, not to time, not to pride, not to silence. She stepped outside. The wind had calmed, the sky was a smooth slate gray. Her car was parked at the curb where she had left it last night, after her breakdown. She climbed in, turned the key. Nothing. The engine clicked, then died. She tried again. Nothing. She sat back, letting the silence wash over her. Her hands fell to her lap. She could call roadside assistance. She could call Jorge. She could call. She didn't. Instead, she stepped out of the car, locked it, and began walking. 1 mile. 2. Each step echoed through memories, pushing strollers, dragging grocery bags, carrying school projects in the rain. Every block held some version of her former life. By the time she reached the hospital address, her feet ached and her shoulders throbbed. But her heart felt steady. She climbed the stairs slowly. 3 flights up. Outside the apartment door, she paused, hand raised, ready to knock. But before her knuckles touched wood, a voice behind her, sharp, urgent. Don't. Mara turned. A woman, young, early 30s, maybe, stood in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes heavy. She doesn't want to see you, the woman said. She said if you came, I should send you away. Mara's throat tightened. Who are you? I'm her friend. The one who called. The one who's been here. Mara didn't blink. Didn't back down. I walked here, she said quietly. You think I'm going to turn around now? The woman sighed, moved aside. Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you. Mara stepped toward the door. Her fingers hovered just above the knob. Vino Uber came. So she walked, through streets she once walked pushing baby carriage, through houses she had hoped would always be home. She hadn't planned to walk. But after the woman stepped aside and disappeared down the hall, leaving Mara in front of Mindy's apartment door, she froze. Her hand was still midair. She couldn't knock. Not yet. She turned around, walked slowly back down the stairs, through the hospital's beige lobby, past the coffee machine and the receptionist who didn't look up. Outside, the breeze brushed her face like a warning. The truth was, she needed a few more steps before she saw her daughter again. So she walked. Not home, just away. Let her feet guide her, through a part of town she hadn't visited in years. The sidewalk cracked beneath her shoes. Tree roots curled up from the earth. She passed a row of houses, yellow, blue, white. Each one had a porch swing, flower pots and American flag. She remembered this street. It was where she pushed Jorge in a stroller the year her husband died. Where Mindy learned to ride a bike, scraped both knees, and refused to cry. Where Eli had snuck out for the first time. Where Lena yelled at her from the car window, "You don't understand me," and slammed the door so hard it cracked the plastic trim. This town held every version of them. Of her. She passed the elementary school. Its fence was newly painted, but the playground was the same. Swings creaking. A kid's laughter echoing like a ghost from her past. She remembered coming here with all 4 kids, their tiny legs tumbling up the slide, laughter pealing like bells. She remembered, too, the time Mindy refused to leave, clung to the monkey bars as if they were the last place on earth she felt safe. Mara had lost her patience. Yelled. Dragged her off. Mindy didn't speak to her the rest of the day. It had seemed like a small moment then. Now it felt enormous. At the edge of the playground, she stopped. A mother sat on a bench, baby on her chest in a sling, another toddler clinging to her knee. The mother looked exhausted but happy. Mara wanted to walk over and say, "Don't blink. Don't waste it." But she didn't. She just watched until the light changed, then crossed the street. She passed the old duplex where Lena rented her first apartment. She remembered visiting, bringing groceries, finding ashtrays and broken strings on the violin. "You came unannounced," Lena had said coldly. "You don't have to fix everything, Mom." Mara had left without a word. Now she wished she'd said, "I don't want to fix everything. I just want you to be okay." The sun dipped lower behind the buildings. The air smelled like mulch and city sweat. Her feet ached. But she kept walking. Block by block, she pulled pieces of herself from the air, from the soil, from memory. Not to forgive herself, not yet, but to understand. By the time she returned to the hospital building, it was nearly evening. The sky was turning lavender. Lights flickered on in the windows above. She climbed the stairs again, slower this time. Her hand slid along the railing like she needed help to carry the weight of her history. Outside Mindy's door once more, she exhaled. She raised her hand. Paused. Then a voice, soft, behind the door, not to her, just into the room. "Did she leave?" Another voice. The same woman from earlier. "She came back." Silence. Then the creak of a chair. Mara leaned forward. She wanted to knock, to announce herself. But part of her hoped the door would just open. That Mindy would meet her halfway. But footsteps approached. The knob turned. The door opened an inch. A thin sliver of light fell across the hallway. Mara saw part of Mindy's face, gaunt, pale, her eyes sunken but sharp. "You really came," she said. "Then, why didn't you come sooner?" The bed looked like it had been slept in by sorrow itself. Mindy didn't say come in. She just walked away, leaving the door open behind her. Mara hesitated on the threshold. The apartment smelled like plastic tubing and lavender oil, that unmistakable mix of hospital and someone trying to pretend it's not. Inside, the living room was dim, lit by a small lamp near the couch. Medical supplies lined the shelves, pill bottles, oxygen tubing, a stack of surgical masks still in their plastic wrap. The curtains were drawn, but a crack of fading daylight slipped through the middle. Mindy sat on the couch, a wool blanket over her lap. Her cheekbones looked sharp enough to cut glass. Her hair, once thick and curly, was pulled into a thin braid that rested over her shoulder like a wilted vine. Mara stepped in, shut the door gently behind her. "I brought your favorite," she said, voice tight. "The ginger chews from that shop in Lincoln." Mindy didn't look up. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," Mara whispered. A long pause. The room seemed to hold its breath. "You look," Mara tried. "Sick?" Mindy finally met her eyes. "Yeah. That's kind of the point." Mara's mouth opened, then closed. "I wanted to tell you," Mindy continued. 100 times. But every time I thought about hearing your voice, your disappointment, your fixing tone, I couldn't. I wouldn't have." "You would've," Mindy interrupted. "You always do." Mara sat on the edge of the chair across from her, careful, like the floor might give way. "I didn't know," she said, more to herself than to Mindy. "About the baby. About you. Because I didn't tell you." "Why?" Mindy looked at her for a long time. Her eyes didn't flinch. "Because I wasn't ready to share her with you." Mara froze. "Her? You have a daughter?" "I had a daughter," Mindy corrected softly. She's being raised by someone else now." "I couldn't, with all this," she gestured to her own frail body. "I wasn't enough." Mara's heart sank. Her hands trembled in her lap. "Her name's Rose," Mindy added. "She's 2 now." Mara's voice cracked. "You should have told me." "I shouldn't have had to hide her," Mindy shot back. Silence fell again. Then Mara whispered, "Can I see a picture?" Mindy hesitated. Then reached under the blanket and pulled out her phone. She tapped the screen a few times and handed it over. The photo showed a little girl with tight curls, round cheeks, and her mother's fierce eyes. Mara felt tears sting before she even realized they'd come. "She's beautiful," she said. "She is." Mara held the phone like it might vanish if she blinked. "I want to meet her." Mindy said nothing. Then, her voice small, "She knows who you are." I showed her pictures. Something cracked inside Mara. Not with pain, not this time, but something more dangerous, hope. "I want to help," she said. "With Rose." "With you." Mindy looked away. "You don't get to show up at the end and save the day." "I'm not trying to save the day. I'm trying to stop pretending I didn't miss everything." Mindy wiped her nose with her sleeve. "Why now?" she asked. "Why this time?" "Because this time. I was scared I wouldn't get another one." Their eyes met. Mara moved to the couch and, after a moment, Mindy let her sit beside her. She leaned gently into her shoulder. It felt like forgiveness. Or something close to it. Then. The door burst open. Mara jerked up. A man stepped in. Tall. Familiar frame. Her heart stopped. Eli? It was Eli, her eldest son. He rushed to Mindy's side, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "The sitter." He turned. Saw Mara. Froze. "You're here," he said. Not with surprise, but accusation. Mara stands, stunned. "You knew?" Eli's jaw clenched. "Of course I knew. I've been here the whole time. She asked me not to tell you." "He never came to see you, because I couldn't stand your disappointment," Eli said, shoulders weighed down. The room fell into a silence so thick it seemed to still the air itself. Mara stared at her eldest son, trying to process what he had just said. "You knew," she whispered. Eli didn't answer right away. His expression was flat, unreadable, but his hands betrayed him, fidgeting, clenching. Mindy broke the silence. "He's been helping since the first diagnosis." Mara blinked. "How long?" "Almost a year," Eli replied, his voice clipped. "I came when she called. I stayed. I did what I could." "And you never told me?" "You weren't supposed to know," he said, sharp now. That was her choice. Mara's mouth opened, then closed again. Eli turned to Mindy. You okay if we have a minute? Mindy nodded, eyes tired. Don't fight. Eli motioned Mara into the hallway. The door clicked softly behind them. Out in the corridor, with its dull lighting and sterile hum, Mara felt suddenly small, like the hallway had been designed to humble people. Eli leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You think I didn't want to tell you? He said quietly. I nearly did, a dozen times. But Mindy was clear. And I understood why. Why? Mara asked, her voice brittle. Because you would have made it about you. Mara flinched. You think I'm selfish? No, Eli said. I think you're scared. Of not being the hero. Of not being in control. He looked down, then back up. When we were kids, you held everything together. You made sure we were fed, schooled, safe. You held on so tight, I don't think you knew how to let us grow without measuring us against your sacrifice. Mara stared at him. I just wanted you to be okay. And we were, Eli said, softly now. But you wanted more than that. You wanted proof. We felt it. Every thank you that wasn't said, every visit skipped, you carried it like betrayal. Mara turned her face away, ashamed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I did the best I could. I know, he said. But sometimes your best left no room for ours. She pressed her fingers against her temple. I was angry at you for years, Eli continued. But now I look at Mindy, and Rose, and I realize how scared you must have been. Doing it alone. Mara's eyes filled. I didn't want to be alone. I wanted you to need me. We did, Eli said. But not the way you wanted. She reached toward him, hesitated, then rested her hand on his arm. I never stopped loving you, she said. I never said you did, he replied. But sometimes, love suffocates. They stood there, decades of misunderstanding hanging between them like fog. Finally, Eli sighed. She's getting worse. I know, Mara said. I could see it. She has plans for Rose. If anything happens. Mara looked at him sharply. She's not dying yet, is she? He didn't answer. She shook her head. We have to do something, get her better care. A second opinion. She doesn't want that, Eli said. She's made peace with what's coming. Mara's breath caught. She asked me to take care of Rose if, he stopped, eyes glinting. But I think she wants to ask you too. Part of her does. Mara's throat tightened. I'd take her. Of course I would. Eli gave a sad smile. That's what she's afraid of. Back inside the apartment, Mindy was asleep. Her face looked peaceful, but her fingers gripped the blanket like she was holding on for dear life. Mara sat beside her, watching her daughter breathe. Everything inside her wanted to scream, "Don't leave me." But instead, she whispered, "I'm here now." A soft knock at the door. Mara opens it, and finds Lena standing there, soaked from the rain, holding a suitcase and an old family photo album. Lena's old tape recorder played in the corner, humming with lost lullabies, abandoned promises. Mara stared at her daughter in the doorway, rainwater dripping from Lena's hair, her suitcase clutched in one hand, the other holding something that looked oddly fragile for all the fury on her face, a dusty, cracked photo album. Neither of them spoke. Then Lena stepped inside. I came as soon as I saw the texts, she said, voice low. You didn't mention she looked like this. Mara closed the door behind her. I didn't have the words. Lena dropped the suitcase and album by the couch and peeled off her wet jacket. She's sleeping, Mara said. But she knows you're coming. She asked for music. Lena glanced toward the corner of the room where her old tape recorder sat. She hadn't seen it in years, silver with peeling buttons, a cassette still inside. She kept it? She asked, almost incredulous. She kept a lot of things. Mara pressed play. The room filled with soft static, then Lena's 10-year-old voice, warbling a lullaby into the mic. Off-key, innocent, beautiful in that strange, haunting way only childhood recordings are. Lena's face crumpled. I forgot I even made that. I didn't. Mara sat. Lena didn't. She paced instead. This whole thing, she said, motioning to the apartment, it feels like a test I'm already failing. You came, Mara said gently. That counts. No. I came late. Like always. Lena turned sharply to face her mother. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't know, Mara answered. You always know everything. You pride yourself on that. Mara's voice cracked. Not this time. Lena ran her fingers through her damp hair. You taught us to perform grief before we even understood it. To say sorry even if we weren't. To keep our voices down, our heads up, our feelings tucked away like receipts. Mara blinked, stunned. You think I don't remember? Lena continued, eyes flashing. You wanted us perfect so you could feel like you didn't fail. Mara's spine stiffened. That's not fair. Isn't it? Silence again. Then a shaky breath from Mara. I never expected perfection. Just respect. Effort. A little bit of care. Lena softened. I wanted to love you without feeling like I owed you something for it. Mara sat back, eyes brimming. The tape recorder clicked off. Lena moved toward her suitcase and pulled out the old photo album. She placed it on the coffee table, flipping through pages until she found what she was looking for. A drawing. Folded, stained at the edges. She handed it to Mara. It was a child's crayon sketch of their family. Stick figures. Mom, Dad, Eli, Lena, Jorge. Mara's throat caught. There was an empty space. A name missing. Mindy. She made us draw this in therapy once, Lena said. I was 7. Mindy was 5. I left her out. And no one corrected me. Mara's hands trembled. I don't remember this, she said. You were tired. You were grieving. But after that, it became easy. Leaving her out. Letting her be the quiet one. The easy one. I thought I was protecting her, Mara whispered. She never asked for anything. Maybe because she thought she didn't deserve to. Lena closed the album gently. She's not perfect either, she added. She kept a lot from us. I know. But we all learned how to hide from you, Mom. She just got better at it. Mara wiped her eyes. I never meant to make you feel small. You didn't, Lena said. You made me feel big, but only when I was useful. When I was impressive. Mara reached for her hand. This time, Lena didn't pull away. They sat in the quiet for a long moment. Then Mara whispered, she has a daughter. Lena's breath caught. What? Her name's Rose. Lena blinked, stunned. She kept that too, she asked. Mara nodded. Lena opened the photo album again, this time to a blank page, and placed the drawing inside. I want to meet her, she said. You will. From the bedroom, a small voice called out, weak, but clear, play it again? Mara and Lena turned toward the sound, united by something far more powerful than answers, the chance, maybe, to finally listen. He never needed words, she thought, until she realized he needed nothing from her either. Jorge didn't answer the first time Mara called. Or the second. But on the third, he picked up with a flat, yeah? It's Mom. Pause. I know. A longer pause. I want to see you, she said. Another pause, so long she thought he'd hung up. Then, I'm at the shop. He hung up. The garage hadn't changed. Same tin roof. Same faded sign, Jorge's Auto and Detail. Same oil-stained parking lot she had dropped him off at years ago when he got his first part-time job. Mara stepped inside. The air smelled of grease and rubber. Classic rock played softly from a speaker in the corner. Jorge was beneath a car, only his boots visible. She waited. He didn't come out. So she stepped closer. I brought your favorite, she said. Still under the car. What's that? Silence. A small laugh. Dry. Bitter. But a laugh. He rolled out slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. His eyes met hers, unreadable. But tired. You look old, he said. So do you, she replied. He smirked. What do you want, he asked, not unkindly, just tired. I want to talk. Too late. No, it's not. He tossed the rag onto a workbench and walked over to the mini fridge. Pulled out 2 sodas. Handed her one. She sat on a metal stool, the cold seeping through her coat. I went to see Mindy, she said. I know. She's not doing well. I know that too. You never told me. You never asked. Mara's hands clenched the soda. I always asked, she said, almost to herself. No, you always expected, Jorge said, leaning against the counter. You expected us to call. To show up. To thank you. I raised you alone, she said, sharper than she meant to. And we didn't ask you to. That shut her up. Jorge sighed. Look, I'm not saying you weren't a good mom. You were. But you were also loud about it. Always reminded us what you gave up. I was scared, Mara admitted. I didn't know how to be both parents. So you tried to be God instead. The words hit like a slap. She stood, the chair screeching against the floor. That's not fair. Isn't it? He threw a wrench onto the bench with a loud clang. You were never proud of me, he continued. Not really. Eli got the grades. Lena got the talent. Mindy got the softness. I got your temper. That's not true. It is. She walked toward him, gently. You were the one who stayed close. Geographically. Not emotionally. He stepped back. And that, more than anything, stung. Why didn't you come to the dinner, she asked, voice cracking. Because I knew what it was, he said. A performance. A second chance at the picture you wanted. Not at the people we are. Mara nodded slowly. You're right, she said. I wanted the photo more than the truth. Jorge looked at her. That softened him, a little. You want the truth? He asked. She nodded. I love you, he said, but I don't like the way I feel around you. That cracked her. He walked past her, grabbed his jacket. But I came here anyway, she said, barely audible. I walked here. I know. He pulled out his phone, glanced at a message. His face shifted, unreadable again. Everything okay? She asked. He pocketed it. Gotta go. She reached for his arm. Jorge. I'll try, Mom, he said. But I can't promise more than that. He stepped past her, heading toward the door. End arrow cliffhanger. As the garage door rolled open, the cold wind swept in. Jorge stepped into the light, pulling out his phone. Mara caught a glimpse of the screen, a photo of a little girl, Rose, and a message, she's asking for you. He never needed words, she thought, until she realized he needed nothing from her either. Jorge didn't answer the first time Mara called. Or the second. But on the third, he picked up with a flat, yeah? It's Mom. Pause. I know. A longer pause. I want to see you, she said. Another pause, so long she thought he'd hung up. Then, I'm at the shop. He hung up. The garage hadn't changed. Same tin roof. Same faded sign, Jorge's Auto and Detail. Same oil-stained parking lot she had dropped him off at years ago when he got his first part-time job. Mara stepped inside. The air smelled of grease and rubber. Classic rock played softly from a speaker in the corner. Jorge was beneath a car, only his boots visible. She waited. He didn't come out. So she stepped closer. I brought your favorite, she said. Still under the car. What's that? Silence. A small laugh. Dry. Bitter. But a laugh. He rolled out slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. His eyes met hers, unreadable. But tired. You look old, he said. So do you, she replied. He smirked. What do you want, he asked, not unkindly, just tired. I want to talk. Too late. No, it's not. He tossed the rag onto a workbench and walked over to the mini fridge. Pulled out 2 sodas. Handed her one. She sat on a metal stool, the cold seeping through her coat. I went to see Mindy, she said. I know. She's not doing well. I know that too. You never told me. You never asked. Mara's hands clenched the soda. I always asked, she said, almost to herself. No, you always expected, Jorge said, leaning against the counter. You expected us to call, to show up. To thank you. I raised you alone, she said, sharper than she meant to. And we didn't ask you to. That shut her up. Jorge sighed. Look, I'm not saying you weren't a good mom. You were. But you were also loud about it. Always reminded us what you gave up. I was scared, Mara admitted. I didn't know how to be both parents. So you tried to be God instead. The words hit like a slap. She stood, the chair screeching against the floor. That's not fair. Isn't it? He threw a wrench onto the bench with a loud clang. You were never proud of me, he continued. Not really. Eli got the grades. Lena got the talent. Mindy got the softness. I got your temper. That's not true. It is. She walked toward him, gently. You were the one who stayed close. Geographically. Not emotionally. He stepped back. And that, more than anything, stung. Why didn't you come to the dinner, she asked, voice cracking. Because I knew what it was, he said. A performance. A second chance at the picture you wanted. Not at the people we are. Mara nodded slowly. You're right, she said. I wanted the photo more than the truth. Jorge looked at her. That softened him, a little. You want the truth? He asked. She nodded. I love you, he said. But I don't like the way I feel around you. That cracked her. He walked past her, grabbed his jacket. But I came here anyway, she said, barely audible. I walked here. I know. He pulled out his phone, glanced at a message. His face shifted, unreadable again. Everything okay? She asked. He pocketed it. Gotta go. She reached for his arm. Jorge. I'll try, Mom, he said. But I can't promise more than that. He stepped past her, heading toward the door. As the garage door rolled open, the cold wind swept in. Jorge stepped into the light, pulling out his phone. Mara caught a glimpse of the screen, a photo of a little girl, Rose, and a message, she's asking for you. The table was dressed with hope. The chairs remained empty. The dining room never looked better. Candles in the center, white and unscented, like the ones her husband used to light on anniversaries. Plates neatly stacked, silverware gleaming under soft yellow light. Every napkin folded into little tulips. Mara stood back, hands on her hips, eyes scanning every inch. She had cooked all day. Roast chicken, garlic potatoes, cornbread, Lena's favorite kale salad, and 2 desserts, chocolate mousse for Jorge, lemon bars for Mindy. She even made the ugly, beige casserole Eli used to love when he was 10. She wanted this night to be quiet, warm, real. Not a second chance. Just a place to exhale. A space for her children to feel like they could come home. She poured herself a glass of water, adjusted a crooked placemat, then sat at the head of the table. She checked the time. 6:47 p.m. They were supposed to arrive by 7. At 7:15, she still waited. She turned the music on, softly. Nina Simone again. The same track from before. At 7:30, she lit the candles. The flicker made her feel less alone. At 7:45, she checked her phone. No new messages. She told herself maybe they were driving. Maybe parking. Maybe Jorge was picking up Mindy, and Eli had to bring his son, and Lena was late because of traffic, always traffic. At 8:12, her hands began to tremble. She took the chicken out of the oven and covered it in foil. The casserole started to collapse into itself. At 8:26, she finally sat down and let herself cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just tears, soft and stubborn, rolling down her face as her chest remained perfectly still. The candles burned low. The house was still. She was not surprised, but somehow, still devastated. Her eyes drifted across the table. Each chair carried a memory, Eli sitting tall and proud, correcting everyone's grammar. Lena humming between bites, tapping her fork against her glass like a metronome. Jorge slouched, legs stretched too far, pretending not to care but always finishing everything on his plate. Mindy curled up in the corner chair, legs underneath her, always saving her favorite food for last. Mara wiped her eyes. She whispered to the empty room, "What did I do that was so unforgivable?" Then, a knock at the door. She froze. Hope returned like a sharp breath. She rushed to the entryway, nearly stumbling over the rug. She opened it. But it wasn't Eli. Or Lena. Or Jorge. It was a stranger. A young woman, maybe mid-20s. Wind in her hair. Eyes dark and wide and trembling with something Mara recognized too well, grief. "Can I help you?" Mara asked. The woman held something in her hand. A soft cloth. Inside it, a phone. And a folded piece of paper. "You're Mara Thompson, right?" "Yes. I'm Rose." Mara's breath caught. "Mindy's daughter." Mara took a step back. "Where is she?" The girl didn't answer right away. She held out the cloth, slowly. "She passed," she said. Just like that. 2 words. The world shattered. Mindy is gone. And in her last days, she sent Rose, not just to deliver news, but to ask for help. She left a final message. And a decision to be made. Mara took the phone and paper with shaking hands. The girl looked like her mother, but quieter, like someone who had learned to be careful with their emotions. "She wanted me to give this to you," Rose said. "And to ask if you'd take me." Mara stared at her, speechless. "Not forever," Rose added quickly. "Just until I get on my feet. I have nowhere else." She looked down. "She said you would know what to do." Mara stood in the doorway, a casserole burning in the background, an untouched table glowing behind her, and in front of her, a granddaughter she'd never met, asking for shelter. It was too much. And somehow, not enough. She stepped aside. "Come in." Mara presses play on the phone. Mindy's voice crackles through, "If you're hearing this, I'm gone." "But Rose, she's what matters now. Don't repeat our story. Write a better one." No phone calls. No one at the door. Only the echo of her own sobs. Mara hadn't moved for hours. The phone still sat in her lap. The last words of Mindy's voice message echoing in her ears, "Don't repeat our story. Write a better one." Rose was asleep in the guest room. She'd barely spoken after coming in. She'd eaten 2 bites of cornbread, said thank you, and quietly disappeared behind the door. Mara hadn't even had the strength to ask if she liked lemon bars. Now the house felt strange, not empty, but not full either, like a museum that had just acquired a new exhibit but hadn't figured out where to place it. She stood finally, slowly, knees stiff. Walked into the kitchen, turned off the oven. The chicken was cold. The candles had melted into stubs. The house smelled like burnt edges and lemon zest and loss. She reached for a sponge. Wiped the counter with deliberate, mechanical care. Scrub. Rinse. Wipe again. Maybe if she cleaned hard enough, the grief wouldn't stick. Later, she sat at the dining table, the same table where no one came, and opened Mindy's letter. It wasn't long. Mindy had never been wordy. Mama, if you're reading this, then I'm already somewhere else. And I really hope, you've forgiven me for how I left. Not just now, but before. Every little silence was me trying to breathe. You never meant to take that from me, but sometimes, you did. I loved you. Even when I didn't want to. Rose is better than me. She's braver. Kinder. Don't make her carry what we did. Just love her. That's all. Mara folded the letter back along the creases, pressed it to her lips, then laid her head on the table and wept. There was no one left to perform for, no one to prove anything to. Just the raw, unfixable fact, she had outlived her daughter. In the morning, she knocked gently on the guest room door. Rose, she said softly. No answer. She pushed it open slowly. The bed was made. Neatly. Too neatly. Empty. Her chest tightened. Had she left? Did she run? On the dresser was a note. Just 2 words. Back soon. She let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Still here. Still a chance. She poured herself a cup of coffee and stared out the window. Her reflection hovered in the glass, lined, gray at the temples, eyes too heavy for morning. The world outside kept moving. Birds hopped across the fence. A neighbor watered her mums. Somewhere a garbage truck beeped in reverse. Her phone buzzed. A message. Lena, heard about Mindy. I'm with Jorge. We're coming today. We'll bring food. Don't worry about anything. Another buzz. Eli, can I bring Henry to meet Rose? I think it's time. Mara read both messages twice. Then placed the phone gently on the counter. This time, they were coming. Not for her. Not to perform, but because something real had broken, and they all felt it. She opened a drawer and pulled out an old notepad, the kind she used to use for grocery lists and notes for the kids. She wrote, clean guest room again. Buy fresh fruit. Frame picture of Mindy. Light a candle tonight. Ask Rose what she wants, not what she needs, not what she'll accept. What she truly wants. She underlined the last one. Because no one had asked her that at 24. No one had asked Mindy either. By noon, the door opened. Rose stepped in, a small grocery bag in one hand. Her face still tired, but calmer. I found a bookstore, she said softly. They had lemon bars. She pulled out a crinkled paper bag and handed it over. Mara opened it. Inside, the exact kind Mindy used to buy when she wanted to celebrate, or apologize. Mara smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks. Do you like them? She asked. Rose shrugged. I don't know yet. Let's find out together. That night, as Mara lit a candle for Mindy, Rose sat across from her, holding the framed photo. She told me once, Rose said quietly, that the best parts of her were from you. Even the broken ones. Mama, promise me you'll keep Rose safe. Mara stood at the kitchen counter, a bowl of strawberries in front of her, slicing them one by one. Rose sat nearby, flipping through an old photo album. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It had softened, the way silence does between 2 people who know they'll keep showing up. Mara watched her, how she tucked her curls behind her ear, how she furrowed her brow at every other page, how sometimes she stared at a photo for a long time without saying anything. She looks like you, Mara said, placing a bowl in front of her. Rose didn't look up. That's what people keep saying. She had your fire. And you're quiet. Rose finally looked up. She was scared. All the time. But she pretended she wasn't. Mara nodded. So did I. That evening, Mara sat down with pen and paper. She wrote 4 letters, one to each child. No guilt. No persuasion. Just truth. In each one, she acknowledged what she missed, what she misunderstood, and what she was ready to offer now: presence, not perfection. She told them the house was open. That Rose would be staying for a while, that they were welcome to be part of it, no expectations, no obligations. Just, if they wanted. Then she started planning Rose's birthday. Her 3rd. Mindy had written in her notebook, "Rose loves birds. Especially the blue ones." So Mara found a bakery that made a cake shaped like a bluebird's nest. She let Rose pick the frosting. They bought little paper birds for the table, and blue candles shaped like tiny wings. She made a guest list, short and sweet. Just family. But this time, she didn't write it in pen. Just in pencil. Days passed. One reply came from Lena: "Of course we'll come. Tell me what to bring." Then Eli, Henry made her a drawing. "We'll be there." But Jorge? Silence. She told herself it was okay. Some walls took longer to come down. 2 nights before the party, another letter came in the mail. No return address. Just her name on the front. Inside, a card. Blank. Except for one line. "Tell her I'll try." No signature. But she knew. Jorge. On the day of the party, Mara rose early. She braided her hair, put on the blue blouse Mindy once said made her look like someone who finally took a breath. Rose wore a dress with tiny birds printed along the hem. The cake arrived. Guests trickled in. Lena and Eli, arms full of gifts and snacks. Henry, holding a crumpled drawing that said "Happy 3rd birthday." Laughter filled the house for the first time in years. Mara stood in the kitchen, watching it all. It didn't feel like redemption. It felt like life. Unpolished. Uneven. But present. Later, after the cake and candles and chaos, Mara sat on the porch with Rose. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the lawn. Rose leaned her head against her shoulder. She would have loved this, Rose whispered. "I hope she saw it," Mara said. They sat in silence. Then Rose asked, "Why did she pick you? To take care of me?" Mara blinked away sudden tears. "Because I promised her I would." Inside, the doorbell rang. Rose jumped up. Mara followed. When she opened the door, Jorge stood there, no words, just a small bluebird toy in his hand. "For the kid," he said. "And for the ones I lost." At Rose's birthday, the candles glowed like fragile hopes. Mara wondered if anyone would light them with her. The sun dipped behind the trees, casting a warm, orange hush across the backyard. The party was over, but not really. Empty plates sat on the porch railing. Half-blown balloons danced in the breeze. Rose was chasing bubbles across the grass, her laugh bubbling up in waves, cutting clean through the residue of old silence. Inside, Mara stood at the kitchen sink, watching through the window. Her hands were still wet from rinsing dishes, but she didn't move. She was remembering. Not just today. Not just the last few months. All of it. The midnight feedings. The slammed doors. The long, hot summers. The broken glass. The birthdays no one remembered. The ones no one forgot. The spaces between love and grief. And the choice, every day, to keep showing up. Jorge had stayed. Not long. But long enough to give Rose the bluebird toy and hug her, awkward, but real. He hadn't hugged Mara. But he said goodbye. With softness. That was new. That was enough. Later that night, Mara lit a candle for Mindy. Not the tall kind, just a small tea light in a little glass cup Mindy once painted blue and called Ocean Puddle. She placed it on the windowsill and watched the flame flicker. She didn't cry. She didn't have to. Some grief came in waves. Some simply sat beside you, quiet and permanent, like a second heart. Rose padded into the room in her pajamas, holding the framed photo of her mother. "Can she see us?" she asked. Mara knelt beside her. "I think she never stopped." Rose looked at the candle. "Can I blow it out?" Mara smiled. "Yes." But before she did, she whispered something. Too soft to catch, then the flame disappeared. They sat on the couch together, the house dark except for the glow of the porch light and the distant hum of crickets. "I don't feel alone anymore," Rose said, curled against her side. Mara didn't answer right away. She just held her. Tighter than before. Later, once Rose had gone to sleep, Mara walked through the house, turning off lights, folding blankets, wiping surfaces, the rituals of a mother who could never sit still. She stopped in the hallway. The photo wall. 4 pictures had always hung there. One for each child. But now, she reached for the bottom drawer in the side table. Pulled out a 5th frame. A new photo. Rose, holding her bluebird toy, looking straight into the camera, unsmiling but not sad. Strong. She placed the frame on the wall, right in the center. No longer a gap. Just a new center. A new chance. She stepped outside for air. The wind was cool, the sky wide open. She stood on the porch, arms crossed, shoulders relaxed for the first time in years. She didn't need a performance anymore. She didn't need a full table to feel full. She had something better. Real things. Real people. Imperfect, present. Alive. Behind her, the door creaked open. She turned. A figure stood there. Backlit. Quiet. "Couldn't sleep," he said. It was Jorge. Again. This time, staying a little longer. She smiled. "No one sleeps the night after grief," she said. He sat beside her on the swing. "Do you think she forgave us?" he asked. Mara looked at him. "I think she left us the chance to try." They sat in silence. The swing creaked gently beneath them. The candle in the window glowed its last, final note, not a cliffhanger, but a soft fade out. Inside the house, Rose stirred in her sleep, her small hand curled around the photo of her mother. And on the porch, beneath a sky filled with stars, Mara closed her eyes, not from exhaustion, but peace. She hadn't saved everyone. She hadn't healed everything. But she had done the thing she promised. She kept love alive. Even after it had gone quiet.